Back to Fully Operational with Eugene Irvin. I'm your host, and this is episode 2. And we've got a great show lined up for you guys today. We've got a very special individual who really puts his heart and soul into his work. And I've asked him to come on because his work really gets into so many different issues that we're dealing with today, as far as the mindset of the public, law enforcement, and how these new issues are being handled with kind of us transitioning into the utilization of different platforms and social media, and how a citizen can take the power back and utilize these platforms for the benefit of humanity, and how we can use these things to have a positive outcome in the public. And so I'm going to go ahead and read his quick bio and get him right in here with us. Jason is 37 years old and currently runs the Predator Poachers Massachusetts YouTube channel and is a survivor and children's advocate. While he doesn't consider himself a vigilante, his passion and concerns regarding the subject of childhood abuse drives him to work around the clock, often putting himself in dangerous situations. He currently works with law enforcement to varying degrees to bring these perpetrators to justice, and is exposing the mindset and cover-ups that are inherent to the abuse of power. To date, he has exposed 73 perpetrators on video, including 9 in just the last 7 days. Jay, it's so good to have you here. Go ahead and say hello.
Hey, how you guys doing? My name is Jason, also known as Predator Poachers Massachusetts. I'm from Massachusetts, born and raised. Basically, what I do is I go online and I catch online predators. And before that, I actually did work a full-time 40-hour job. And yeah.
It's important for people to know that, but I think more importantly, to see how hard you work on this stuff really is something that captured my attention. And you've done such an amazing job. There's so many places to go. I think it's a good place to start with the audience to say, hey, this guy with no training from the street, he's 37 years old. He doesn't have all of these different avenues that law enforcement has to be able and to go out and catch these perpetrators. In many instances, he's completely decimating the numbers that law enforcement personnel will actively be engaged with exposing and bringing to justice these perpetrators. He's doing this as an individual in his own community, and lo and behold, he caught a police chief in the city of Stowe, Massachusetts, that resulted in his subsequent arrest and resignation. He's currently going to court. We're seeing how this stuff is playing out in the media and through the court system. And to be able to set an example, raise the bar for law enforcement and say, hey, anybody who's objective in law enforcement personnel today that may be listening or maybe listening in the future, to say, how is this guy from the street with no training doing my job better than even I'm doing it? And I have all of these vast resources available to me. This is what Jay's doing. And so it's important for people to know that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that capture that you had and the circumstances behind it? I've got a whole series of questions for you about that, but just dive into that and let the audience know what that really is and how that transpired, Jay.
Well, that was probably by far one of the biggest catches I'll probably get. I don't know. I mean, he was a chief of police. He was an active chief of police. He almost got away from me, honestly. He was not as cautious as I would expect him to be, being a serve and protect, a public servant. He wasn't cautious at all. I've dealt with a lot of different men, and he was one of the least cautious ones, which was very, very scary. It took me about a week. We talked for about a week. The day of the meetup is where I almost lost him. He went to a different meetup spot. It was about 25 minutes away from where I told him to meet me. He's like, I'm at the spot. And I'm like, no, I'm here. So I was scared because I'm like, he's going to get spooked out and think that, I sent him to the wrong place. And so he ended up turning back around, and he did come to the meetup spot, and I did end up catching him that day, which was, and I didn't know he was a police officer. I had no idea until the next day after I caught him. I had no clue who he was. So
let's talk a little bit about how you found out that he was a police chief. I mean, how did that go down?
So basically, what happens is when I catch these guys, I usually go and turn these men in. Usually, a day after or two, I have to get all the information onto a hard drive. Well, that catch, I went home that night. I got woken up the next morning about 8 in the morning. It was two state police detectives, and they just knocked on my door, and I answered the door, and they said, "Are you Jason?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "I need to speak to you." They said, "I need them chat logs and I need the video from the guy that you caught yesterday." And I said, "Okay." I said, "But why are you guys here?" I said, "Usually I go and turn it in. It's kind of weird. You guys are at my house and you guys are state police." I'm like, "Usually I deal with local police." He said, "Well, I can't give you too much information. All I could tell you is, he's like, just please try not to share the video right now or drop like, he didn't want me to release the video right away. He didn't tell me why either. And it was like just killing me inside because I'm like, who is this guy?" And then obviously that's when 1,000 things ran through my head, and I was like, is he a lawyer, district attorney? And like, I didn't know who he was or what he was, but I was guessing. I still didn't think a cop though.
You're saying you saw a push from the state police to actively cover up the fact that you had caught an active police chief involved in solicitation of sex to a minor. That's what I just heard you say.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, Mark. I mean, I think these are the exact words he did say though. He's like, "Please, whatever you do, don't release the video yet. It could hurt the case." That's what he said. Something in them terms.
That may have been their motive, and that could have been the reasoning for it. But I think that you really caught them in a catch-22. And I know that a concern that you had was, well, you know, if I'm going to go and work with the state police and I'm going to actively work with this law enforcement, how do I know if I forward them the chat logs and I don't know who this person is? Is there going to be a politicized issue which may cause them to, you know, not proceed with the investigation as they should? And when we see somebody that is so nonchalant and cavalier about asking, if we go and review the chat logs that are in your video that you had with this guy, Jay, we're looking at a police chief predator who's hiding behind his cover as he's, you know, this pillar of the community. Nobody would think that this guy's doing this. And lo and behold, he was doing it. Not only was he doing this and, you know, trying to get into the house of this young boy, you know, "Are you sure your mom's not going to be home?" type stuff in the chat log. And he's really trying to work his way into the child's house to have sex with him as a 14-year-old. And this guy's what, 58 years old.
Yeah.
But we saw another issue where in your video, it starts out with the clip of this police chief. What is his name? Rusty
Ralph Moreno.
Okay. We see Rusty on the news for his local affiliate there, acting like he's very concerned about a child that had gone missing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but during that ordeal, was he not still actively engaged with texting you while that was going on?
Yeah, that's the whole reason I put the whole clip in it. I wish I could have explained the whole situation, but the whole way the whole thing played out was just real weird and creepy. Just creepy. It was a creep. True definition of a creep.
Yeah, I mean, so what's the deal? He was on the television. He's acting like he's concerned, but he's texting you in the middle of this missing persons case with a younger child, a totally separate issue, but he's actively engaged in soliciting sex to a minor, trying to get into the parents' house of this kid while he's doing that. That's correct, isn't it?
Correct. I believe that was a big part too. Like the day that we were supposed to meet up, the first time, I think that was the reason why I think something happened, and that was what happened. And then I think we met the next day after that. It was either the next day or the same day. I'm not really sure on the dates, but I know it was the same time though.
That's unbelievable. I mean, it's so illustrative of this mindset that we have to face as the public today to be aware of. And again, anybody in law enforcement, because having worked myself an investigation into a similar type of issue with a municipality and a county government seat here in Texas, in North Texas, in Collin County, and in the adjacent county in Denton. We saw that these guys were involved in illicit child trafficking, child prostitution, drug running, so on and so forth. And this was a multi-generational thing for these people. And lo and behold, we finally did have some action. Some of these guys got popped. They're going to prison, federal prison, and so on and so forth. But we still have people covering up for these crimes at the state and federal level, where these guys can continue to think that they're getting away from this. And the way that this is going to stop is by kind of doing the work that you're doing, illuminating these issues and so on and so forth. I know that you're going on to the news again. I think that you've probably been on to your local affiliate a couple of times. What's your relationship with the mainstream media been like regarding this issue?
No relationship at all whatsoever. I've reached out to numerous different ones. Channel 5 is the only one that reached out back to me, and they actually did a really nice interview, which I was glad they did, but I was kind of upset that they put me out to be a vigilante, because I don't consider myself a vigilante at all. I would rather consider myself like more of an activist than a vigilante. I just don't like the word. I don't know.
I mean, it's not like you're going out and hurting people, is it? I mean, you're actively saving people from kind of their own actions. I mean, let's describe what a catch looks like for you. What do you do in order to lure these people? And walk us through the whole process, Jay, of what it looks like for you to get somebody, to hook them in, what goes on. Do they send you pictures? Do they do this, that, or the other? Be descriptive as you can or as you want to be, and let us know how this is going on.
Gotcha. So it starts off as basically what you do is obviously you have a decoy phone, which is just any burner phone, I call it. Decoy phone is just a cheap phone, Android, any type of cheap phone. You get that phone, you download any type of dating app you want, whether it's Kick, Meet Me. I mean, it's anywhere. Facebook, TikTok, anywhere you can even imagine. But I use a lot of dating apps, Grinder, Meet Me. So basically, you just download the app. You put a picture up. I use people that are over the age of 18 that obviously look a lot younger. And shout out to them, because without them, they're a really big help, and they don't get enough respect. And honestly, they help me. They're the ones that catch these men for me, really, with their pictures. And so basically what I do is I put a picture up online. I wait for people to hit me up. I do not message anybody. I do not try to catch anybody, or I don't entrap nobody. I just put a picture up. They hit me up, contact me first. They usually hit me up and say, hey, hi. I'll respond back, hi. They'll usually say something else like, what are you doing? And I'll say, not much. Can I tell you something? And then I'll tell them my age. That's when there's a lot of people will block me. Some will be groomers and say, well, this is not okay. You shouldn't be on this. This is a very dangerous app for you. Or people will take advantage of you. But then again, the next day, the guy's asking you for nude pictures. So there's a lot of creeps, but I would say the percentage of people that block you, when I say the age, it's low. A lot of people just will talk. They'll be like, well, we could just even talk. So yeah. And then, so basically after I tell them my age or whatever, I can't ask them to meet up. I have to wait for them to ask to meet up. I wait for them to ask if I want to meet up. I cannot talk sexual to them because I don't want to entrap them in any type of way. I'm not trying to lead them on. I just let them dig themselves a hole, and then I bury them at the end. So basically, after that, let me see. I lost my train of thought. So after that, I let them exchange the meetup, and then after that, that's when we exchange the meetup. We agree to meet up at a place. That's when I usually pick a public place, a safe location where I feel safe. And then another thing is, I don't want to ever put the public at any harm's way either, because you don't know what you're walking into or who you're going to meet. So I try to do it the most safest way for myself and for the public. So I agree to meet up in a spot. We meet up. that's when I go and I pull out my phone and I let them know I'm recording for my safety and theirs. It's just so that they don't say I heard him and the same thing. And basically, I let them know I'm not law enforcement right off the back. I let them know that they're not being detained. They're free to go. I say majority of them sit there and they talk. The ones that don't talk, I believe they're the ones that done it before. They know not to say nothing. The ones that don't, that really probably is their, first time or whatever, they'll sit there and they just blabber and incriminate themselves. And yeah, that's basically it.
How did you get into doing this? What really sparked your interest in the whole formula for you to be able to do this? I imagine that you probably developed it over time and trial and error and so on and so forth. But what really got you into this, Jay?
Well, what got me into it is I used to always like watch Chris Hansen. Obviously, I don't know who hasn't, and I've always liked what Chris Hansen did. But I used to always think it was fake. I didn't think it was real before. I thought it was a lot of it was just staged for TV because yeah, TV's like that. So I didn't really know. So I started exploring YouTube and I started finding more and more videos on it. And I just started watching videos and I used to spend hours and hours watching videos and I would constantly read the chat logs and go over and read how they would conversate with these predators. And then that's when I reached out to a few catchers and I asked them and I studied some laws where I was from and looked up some laws. And I went to work one day and I went to work and I worked with my cousin at the time and my cousin was my boss and I went into work and I said, hey, I told my cousin, I said, hey, Justin, I said, I think I want to do something. He's like, what? I said, I think I want to catch online predators. And he's like, man, you're crazy. And I'm like, well, I know you watch Chris Hansen. I'm like, well, I'm going to give you some videos to watch. Go home and watch the videos and then come back and tell me what you think. So the next day he comes into work and he's like, hey, he's like, we're going to go do this, man. So I'm like, I told you. I'm like, I told you, bro. So we, that day after work, we literally got out of work. I still had my work clothes on and we went, sat in the Walmart parking lot and downloaded the app and dope, 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 dope. I'm like, oh my, I just couldn't believe it. I was shocked.
And the rest is history, huh?
Yeah, just after that, it was like one after another. And then I just kind of I couldn't stop doing it. Once I caught one, it was like, I got to go get another one.
I see that. I see that you're just, all hours of the day and night, you're putting so much into this. What are you really getting out of this financially, if anything?
It's not obviously helping me, but my whole thing of it is I didn't come into this to do it financially. I finally found a passion. It's something that I love to do, man. And sometimes in life, sometimes people find themselves a little bit older, younger, and I just finally think I hit that spot in my life where I really found myself and I found something I love to do and I'm passionate for it. I think I'm great. I'm sorry for my language, but I think I'm good at what I do. And yeah. And another reason why I'm so passionate about this is because I was a victim before, okay? I was young. I don't remember it. But I remember I used to lash out and I grew up a very hard life. And I believe a lot of it it has a big part in that. And then I have a sister that she was raped and she lived a really rough life. And right now she's messed up. She's on drugs. And I know a lot of that has to do with sick ass people, man. So that's a lot of the reason why I do it, man. And she's like one of my biggest supporters. So yeah.
Man, I love you for that, Jay. And there's so many, you strike a chord so deep with so many people who, even if they're not a survivor of this type of just, the most egregious crimes that we can think of, bro. And I feel you out there, man. I really do. We all understand that when we do this to children, it really affects them for their whole lives. And it's something that they have to process through, and it's a process for people at different rates for the rest of their life. And to get into the deeper aspects of what you're doing, because you're helping so many people in the field by exposing these people, by keeping them from actually going out and bringing in another victim for themselves. But when we get into your interactions with law enforcement and how this plays out through the media and so forth, this is so pivotal again for this transition that we're making, and it's something that I'm not even sure if any of us can really begin to realize right now how important it is. Because when we let's look at the district attorney's office in the county over here where this police chief was caught. And just to kind of back up, Jay, how many times have you presented out of those 73 perpetrators that you've caught? How many times have you presented the chat logs and other evidence and proof of what they've done to law enforcement?
Oh man, probably got to be at least 50 of them, probably even more.
And
you know what happens sometimes is some situations like I've turned them in, but this is what they say: if they don't, well, they kept switching it on me. How about that? So when I first started this, the age of consent they were telling me was, if I gave the age 15, with them just agreeing to come and meet up and physically being there, that they can be charged with enticement. And then they switched it and said, oh, well, you got to go to the age 14 because the age of consent for penetration, or no, the age of, you can give consent for kissing and touching at the age of 15. So they wanted me to go lower in age. So in the beginning, I did a lot of 15, and so some of them, obviously, I couldn't get charged. So obviously, I lived and I learned, and some of them, obviously, they didn't get away because I have a video, I have chat logs, everybody knows who they are.
Right. You're still exposing them regardless.
People don't understand and fail to realize when these men get charged, okay, half the times they're not arrested. Half the times, if they do go to jail, they go to PC, which is protective custody. They go with other people just like them. They sit in there and they just talk amongst each other of how they're probably going to get out and do it again. And they literally don't even sit in jail for long. And it's pretty sad that our system is like this. It really is sickening.
And that's what I'm getting at. Your work and the work of others like you, because I've seen the work of some other people out there that have done similar things. I don't even know if most of the audience is familiar with Chris Hansen, and I'm really not that familiar with him myself. But, the bottom line is when we look at how law enforcement responds to this, it's comforting in one sense that they asked you to at least get in with the legal requirements and they asked you to go lower. I take that as a positive sign. But out of the people that have been lower that you've presented, the information in the chat logs too, what percentage of those people have actually resulted in them being charged with an offense?
I have a bunch charged. That's what I mean. There's a lot charged. I've even had some that they put 3 of my catches were on the news. I have a bunch charged, and that's another thing with COVID. I called the other day because he was actually, I think, my first or second catch, and he was a level 3 sex offender. He was my first catch, actually. His name was Ben. He was a level 3 sex offender. And I reached out to them, and I called the courthouse and called the clerk's office, and I said, hey, I gave him his information. I said, I want to know what's going on, because he was charged. And the lady's like, well, I can't give you no information, blah, blah, blah. So I called the Shirley Police Department to speak with the lieutenant that I spoke with, and I left them a message, and this was a week ago, and I still have not heard it back. So, yeah.
So what do you take that as a sign of? Do you think that they're just working on this case, or they're too busy? How does that?
This is what their thing is to me. That, like, all right, I'm gonna say Leominster has been, where I live in my town, they've been great working with me. They've never said, no, I'm not going to, they want me to get these men. They want to charge them. What they tell me all the time is it's not up to them. It's up to the district attorney. They said, we don't make the last decision. We go through the evidence, and then after we go through it, we hand it over to the district attorney. The district attorney makes the final decision. So me, I just spoke to a detective, was it, I want to say last Thursday, was it? And I let her know that and she told me that she thinks that I should go and maybe speak to the state police. And I told her that I've been thinking that I want to speak directly to the district attorney, because I'm sick of having to work with this because every time I go in, I work with a different officer, so it's always a different officer, different. And it's a lot of work. I trust me, it's a lot of work.
I should say so. And so when I mean, there's a chain of command essentially, or there's an order of things when we're dealing with the law enforcement community as it, transitions into the judicial community. But let's remember that a district attorney is an elected official. And, it's up to us, the public, the media, the alternative media, the audience out there, to put pressure on these people politically any way we can to say, hey, why on God's green earth is Jay with no training, no fusion center, no other avenues of law enforcement like, the U.S. Marshals? Because trust me, the marshals get a hold of this stuff. They want to go and get these guys. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
They really do. Let's talk about, in the fusion center, you may have 10 different agencies in there, potentially up to 17 different agencies. I mean, that's how many there is in the IC and the intelligence community. Bottom line, why is Jay able to go out and do their job better than them? I want to keep striking that chord because it's up to us at this point to take that and to take the next steps. And that's really what this interview is about to me, to get the audience, to get ourselves equipped, because by no means is this going to be a dead issue with me after this interview is done. This is something that is so important for different people across the country. And we need to, while you and others like you are raising the bar, because I've been involved in this myself too, Jay, and that's one of the things that made me resonate with your work. I really got just over my head with the level of corruption and how the law enforcement community has people in key positions of power that like to cover up for these crimes. While, we all saw the drug war back in the 80s and 90s kind of be a cover for, let's face it, rogue intelligence factions and law enforcement factions running dope so they could fund black projects and all these other things that we know they do. Today, they're doing this with this war on human trafficking. And if we're going to stand by and let this happen at the expense of our children, this is not the same thing as, going down to the jungle to pick up a bunch of cocaine and fly it up here in your little CIA plane. Okay, I've known people that have done that. But the bottom line, when we're talking about children's lives, their hearts, their souls, this is where the rubber really meets the road. And this is not somebody putting something in their pipe to go smoke it. This is the torture and rape of children. And if somebody in law enforcement is going to utilize their cover, because when we saw this police chief that you dealt with, let's face it, he's 58 years old. He had been steeped in this culture of law enforcement, and he feels like he is untouchable. He feels like nobody's going to come after me. I already know all the people doing the stings. I don't have to worry about Jay. Jay doesn't exist in his mind. There's no such thing as an activist who comes out and busts people what he's trying to do. As far as he knew, he had no idea. And so that's how you caught him. That's why he felt like he could do this. Let's face it. And this is what the media doesn't want to tell us, right? They knew. He knew that he could get away with it. Why was he so nonchalant? Because his buddies are not out there trying to work this thing. I personally, talked to an FBI task force officer and told him, his name is Jeff Rich. He was awarded, one of the most prestigious honors that you can get in the FBI by James Comey. We know James Comey is completely corrupt. Right now, he's under investigation, at the highest levels out of the White House, period. And he gives this guy an award as I'm giving him a tip about a judge's daughter who not only was the judge's son, he's currently incarcerated. He got 30 years for continuous sexual abuse on a minor. He had 11 counts of it, His daughter, bless her heart, is a prostitute, hooked on drugs, totally been through, ritualistic abuse. And when I came out about this, and we see these factions embedded in law enforcement, and they think they can do exactly what, Rusty did, and they can just keep getting away with it. And this is the core of the issue. And it will get you just so upset when you really understand what's going on and you're not afraid to look it right in the eyes, grab it by the horns and see it for what it really is, because this is what's been going on. And so anytime we have an elected official like a district attorney who is the go-between, because let's face it, all the way back to the mob days, they would put somebody in the district attorney position who's not going to prosecute these types of crimes. That does not include child trafficking. Let me tell you something. There's a bunch of people in the mobs out there who don't care who you are. You're not going to fuck with these kids. And so these things are going to change whether these people like it or not. And so I want to get your take on that. And I want you to be aware as you're beginning to grow, your audience is growing exponentially all the time. You're reaching people all over the world. I think what you've got about 50,000 subs on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're growing.
We're about to hit 36,000.
Okay.
I try not
excellent.
to pay attention now. I'm like at the point that like I like the numbers because obviously the more the numbers, the more people that gets this information out. So the more people that's aware, the more people that see it. So, but yeah, I kind of whatever, it don't matter. But my subs, yeah, I'm definitely growing right now. I'll tell you that, and I didn't expect to grow this fast. That's why. That's another thing. Coming into this, I didn't even know how to even turn a laptop on and use it. Basically, I'm so old school. It's not even funny.
When I jumped into this particular issue, I got into it really quick, and I got to the level at the judicial system where I wasn't going after perpetrators on the street. I didn't have a police chief fall on my lap like you had such a blessing to do to bring this to all of us today. I think that just God really said, hey, I'm going to give this out there for people. And I think that that's something that's working through you. And it's amazing to me. And I really recognize that. And I'm so thankful for that. I mean, such gratitude. But I knew these guys were involved in it because I got a tip from the person in the family inadvertently. And I took this to the district attorney. I took this to the sheriff. I took this to the FBI. I took this to the U.S. Marshals. I recorded every single bit of it. And lo and behold, the same people that you've seen going out and finding all of these missing kids, the U.S. Marshals, really were the most concerned about it. And when I spoke to them, I was very vocal about, hey, we know there's a connection between Collin and Denton County. We know what they're involved in. And when these things play out in the media, Jay, they try to keep this stuff real quiet because it affects some very powerful people, and it affects some very, really ancient, multi-generational ways of things that these people participate in that most people have no idea are going on. And we see this in the different secret societies and stuff, and not in all of them, but we do see it in particular factions of secret societies and these people that have embedded themselves in this. And there's particular factions that are more heinous than others. And to be real frank, sometimes these guys are warring against one another. And this is a whole nother element of the dynamics at play that really somebody like you or anybody else who's going out and doing what you do really needs to be aware of. The public needs to be aware of. And it's up to us to be able to disseminate that information as we begin to collect it and understand it together. And so that's another reason why I wanted to bring you in, because my circle of people involves people from, you name the agency. I've been around it my whole life. And this is part of my testimony. And so I've seen it from the inside in a lot of different ways. And I don't think that a lot of the people, even in the audience, but even like yourself, have really gotten to that level where there's, you know, like you said, you're sitting in the parking lot and you had all these things pop up in Walmart. You couldn't believe the response that you were having. These things are going on, and it's a really organized racket that we see that ultimately people embedded in law enforcement, again, in these key positions, are covering up for. These are the people that need to go. And so what you're doing is raising the bar for them where they're unable to hide anymore. They don't have an excuse anymore. Well, little Jay from the street who grew up doing God knows what is outperforming, 17 different agencies at a fusion center. What the, how is this even possible? I'm unable to reiterate that enough for people to really get it in their head that this is not right. This is something that, and I'm passionate about it too, and I think that you can feel that, but I want to get your take on how you see yourself transitioning, where you're going from here, what are your plans for the future, and what are you doing to safeguard yourself, and how much have you considered your security? And so try to touch on some of those things for us, Jay.
Well, I don't carry no gun, no weapon. I go by myself a lot of the times. I carry a little thing of mace with me. I don't no bulletproof vest, nothing. I'm basically a brave-hearted soul. My girl always, she's like, you don't care. She always says I'm nuts. And I just want to touch on the part of how dangerous it is what I do. Just because you were talking about this, I just want to tell you a quick story about what happened to me last night. It was probably the most scariest thing that's happened to me since I've been catching people. So basically, I caught a guy last night, and after I caught him, when I was doing the when I was asking him questions, he was kept asking me to get in his car, and he said, "Just get in my car. We could talk in my car. Just get in my car." And I'm like, "I'm not gonna get in your car. Like, why would I?" And then I even told him, I'm like, "You're kind of making me really nervous." He kept reaching and reaching, and that's another thing, man. These guys come, you don't know what they have in their car. Their life is over at this point to them. They're like, they don't have nothing. They're so. Make a long story short, the guy drives off. 35 minutes later, he pulls back in the same parking lot I was at, and he pulls in. He didn't know we were driving, but he pulled up a little bit further than us. And obviously, I told the guy I was with. He was my cameraman. Luckily, I had somebody with me, and I told him, I said, we got to go. Let's go. And we took off, and I just went back home, and I said, I'm not. I know he went home. I know it's a speculation, but I'm a guarantee that man went home and grabbed himself his firearm, and God knows what he came back to do. Who knows if he's trying to figure out who I am at this point in time. Like, the guy that I was with was actually literally, he was like, "Look, dude, I'm shaking." The guy is a big guy. He's not a little guy. He was literally shaking. He's like, "What if he got my plate and he was connected with some type of law enforcement and he can run my plate to find out what," like, it's very, very scary and dangerous. So, yeah. It is definitely good to definitely go with somebody. So if you do plan on doing it, definitely try to go with people, have a team. I just don't like to go with people. The reason being is I feel like when you go with more than one person, it intimidates them and they just take off and they don't talk. I feel like when I go alone or even one other person, after I start my communication with them, then the other person walks over and usually they'll stay and talk. But that's the reason that I do that.
And I see you focused on that in your videos. And so what ways have your tactics changed from when you began to what you're doing now? What have you learned in the process of kind of doing this from the beginning of what to do and not to do?
Well, I've learned a lot because I've had a few other close calls. What? I don't know, man. Sorry, my wife answered you. But I had a few close calls, and so basically, one thing is night catches. I do not like to do catches at night. I hate night catches. They're like the most scariest. I hate them, but my chat's always like, and obviously I can't tell a predator, hey, we can't meet this. Like when they want to meet, and if I got a chance to get them, I usually want to get them, but I try not to do night catches. So night catches I try not to do. I've been taking somebody with me lately, because I know my girlfriend, she's worried. She's always watching me live, and I know a lot of supporters are sitting there and they're always like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? So
right.
I know it helps.
So it's neat to see how many people come into your chats and stuff like that. And I think that I want to start getting, you have such a group of people working. I want to get all of them aware of what the real issues are, of how this is going to transpire, what we're working towards to raise that bar, because your field work is the primary force to be able to raise that bar. But when we begin to understand that, hey, we're the ones that can put the pressure on these people politically and say, hey, Mr. District Attorney, hey, Mr. Sheriff, hey, whoever the person is that's in the way, here's the information. Why aren't you able to do what Jay's doing when he's just one guy? Why? What's the excuse when the public is the one paying for your salary? You're supposed to be a public servant. Well, it's time for you to start serving the public and not yourself, or get the fuck out of Dodge, period. And so it's up to us to put the pressure on these people, and it's not going to happen if we're unorganized, if we don't even understand the problem. And so it's important for us, Jay, to get the audience educated and equipped for what's to come with the work that you're doing, because it doesn't stop here. The rubber meets the road when you go out and you're doing that field work and you're actually getting a perpetrator, because let's face it, your orders of magnitude higher as far as the yield of the perpetrators that you're busting than most municipal or county agencies that are out there. I haven't seen one that can really even compete with just you. And a good instance comes to mind here in the North Texas region. We had a sheriff here in Collin County. His name's Jim Skinner, and I'm not afraid to say his name. He has sent an investigator after me, after already trying to shut me up on social media, unconstitutionally giving me a social media ban, to which I then responded by releasing recordings of me speaking to the U.S. Marshal Service, to speaking to the FBI, speaking to members of his own department who admitted to widespread corruption within his department. All of that stuff is still on YouTube, by the way. And you can just type in Eugene Irvin /federal agents, and you'll hear all of those things out there for anybody who's interested in the audience to see that. There's a playlist there of 9 different videos, and it's me speaking to all of those multiple different agencies. Bottom line, they violated me. The cop who initially set me up is going to federal prison, and his dad was the sheriff in another county adjacent to him, to Collin County, that you can hear me talking to them about. It's really an amazing story. And we got really deep into this. And you know what? I'm not going to sit back and let an operation that I worked become the element of blackmail that we see in our political system today, because this is the cancer in our country. Okay, we have so many people that say, hey, yeah, let me tell you about the complacency of these law enforcement officials, like you witnessed with this police chief. Didn't even give it a second thought, as far as, you know what, I'm just going to go scrape up this little boy and go into his mama's house. Nobody's going to catch me. It's so vile, and just to really wrap your head around that in the audience is something that I think is difficult to do. A lot of us don't want to see that. But thank you, Jay, for being able to do that. It's amazing. Bottom line, this guy, the sheriff that I'm talking about, runs in a re-election campaign in North Texas in Collin County. Operation Medusa is what it was called. They only busted 15 predators, and this was the whole basis for like his, re-election campaign. He ran on that platform, and this was the whole spin that they put in the media here, like, oh, he's such a great guy because he went out and got 15 people. Oh, but Jay's got 73. He's one guy with no fusion center. That says everything right there. And you're not even running for a public office, and you really are a public servant, Jay. So thank you. You don't even get paid for this. You put your heart into this. Yeah. And so the bottom line, when we look at his kinfolk, there's a guy out there named Ray Skinner on Facebook. Anybody wants to look this up, go ahead. We've got a team of attorneys here that will sue you to kingdom come if you try to come at us for any other thing like slander or anything else, because this guy has been in law enforcement for 42 years, and he's got a profile picture of a naked little boy in a cowboy hat as his profile picture on Facebook. Do they teach this at the FBI? Do they teach this at Dallas Police Department? I promise you they don't. To the mainstream, there may be little factions embedded within these agencies that do, but how many people do you think, Jay, were underneath the chief that you busted who had no idea what he was doing? And if they did, they would have gone there and handcuffed they wish they would have taught him like you did.
That's the thing that sucks. There's a lot of good cops, man, and these
right.
bad cops that give them the bad name, because there's so many wonderful cops, man. Don't get it twisted. So there's a lot of good people. I don't want to
speak too much on all these other people that I mentioned their names, but it's up to them to do the right thing. And so, and I've personally seen these guys cover up corruption in an anti-corruption probe that I was working that was part of a multi-agency investigation, and they can kiss my ass. I mean, I was forwarding this information to different agencies in real time while I was incarcerated to get this job done. And it's one of the things that I brought you here for, Jay, because we can see, again, this transition. It's beautiful to watch this, but it's also a place where we have to be careful and get people educated about it, man. And so I want to get the take on the audience. I know that do you have a simulcast going with this right now? Or are people listening to us off your channel right now?
I'm not even on my channel. I tried to send people in here. I tried to do it. I think there's some people in here. I'm not sure. Yeah, I see some of my supporters in here.
Okay, well, any of those guys that have any questions about anything that we're talking about, that's important. But anybody in the audience, we need to start understanding that we're the ones that can make the difference here. We're not just going to sit back and let Jay do all the work. We're not just going to sit back and say, hey, this is awesome that this is going on. We need to understand our place and what we can do about this. But first, we need to understand this problem. And so I want to get your take on how you feel about that, because you're the one right in the middle of this. From what you've experienced, Jay, what ways do you see that we can cultivate these law enforcement relationships? Because like you said, the overwhelming majority of these officers are good, but they don't have any idea that this is going on. And if they do, they're in a culture that has been, created for them, which they're afraid to speak out. They need to feed the wife and the baby, but man, not at the expense of these kids. I promise you, if these officers that are good really knew what was going on, and they really had a good grip on, they can actually believe what they're seeing, because they get it into I've seen them do it. When I first presented some of these people with the information that I had about the corruption in Collin County to the two officers working for Collin County, they were taken aback. They didn't want to see it for what it was, and then they started coming to me and they started fact checking. They started finding out that all the stuff was right, and it included drug running, it included child prostitution, it included a whole racket of things that people like the FBI and others are interested in. It's really their jurisdiction, and we've seen some movement, but again, we haven't seen it break through into the media, and it's our job to hold these people accountable. I want to know, from what you've seen on the inside, from your experiences with the media and law enforcement, what we can do to cultivate those relationships, and what you're planning on doing just by thinking about those things for the future, man.
To me, I feel like our whole justice system is just totally broken. There's too much corruption that goes on in all of that. That, like, I feel like we can't fix it. The only way to fix it is to get everybody out of there, and us as the people start voting our own people in there. Like, I don't even know at this point what to do when it comes to that. But how could we as people, how can all my supporters, they do help out. I have so many, and they are on it. Half the time I post a picture of these men that I catch. I don't even find out who they are from law enforcement. These people find out who these men are right away. But by the time I'm even done the catch, half the time they send me their full information. So I definitely have a bunch of people, a team of people that are always got my back, and we're always on stuff. So the biggest thing right now is just sharing. I do want to start to set up a few things and go and set up a few protests and go get in front of the State House and make some noise and try to do something, man. But I know I have a lot of people behind me, so I just think know
that there's a lot of good people. The district attorney's office is who's in charge of prosecuting these crimes, and a lot of times they're really good people out there, and they're in a tough spot, and they're in a heavily politicized position, and they're in the crosshairs of different agencies from the county that they work in, the cities that are in that county, and all of the cases will come through their office, and it's a very precarious position for them politically. And if we make our voices heard to them and say, hey, this has to change, this is something that's going on in our community that's not acceptable, these children are being harmed, it results in a lifetime of trauma for them. What can you do for us as an elected official, Mr. District Attorney or Mrs. District Attorney, in order to expedite the transition into this new era of us sharing this information with the public, right? Because that's what these platforms were designed to do. That's where this network is taking us, is so far as if we use it properly, right? We can utilize these different social media platforms, and really we're taking the power out of these corporate media, and they can't stand it, Jay. They hate it. They're fighting, kicking, and screaming every way they can to hold on to this, and they've got their little fingers into all these little different facets of our communities today, and people are suffering as a result of this, man. And it's not just the different politicized things. We just had a show on the network just prior to this one with my friend Kathleen, who had a sheriff on. Great guy. I didn't get a chance to really delve into it too much, but they're concerned about this rogue funding of these very politicized organizations that are being played out in the media. When you've got protesters being flown and bussed into different cities to go and tear things down for an agenda they really don't even understand, but they're just getting a paycheck to increase this divisiveness in our country. This is not a Republican or a Democratic issue. This is something that
divide the people.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And so it's an ubiquitous problem. It's pervasive. And you recently had another catch where the guy had run or had attempted to run for a state representative position as like in the state in the House of Representatives or something like that.
Yeah, he was trying to run for state rep. He was gonna run for state rep. I think I want to say 2009, 2010. Then he backed out because some family issues, personal problems, or whatever. And then I guess he wanted to rerun again. And yeah, I don't think he's gonna rerun anymore though.
Well, obviously not, since you busted this guy. But what's really important for us to understand is statistically, when we look at the the community of political figures and elected officials, and even law enforcement, we have a much higher ratio of people that are involved with these types of crimes than we do just the general public. And so this is, completely provable on paper. And so for every X amount of, political figures or law enforcement that you have, there's a much higher percentage of these people that are involved in this type of work. And so they gravitate towards these positions to hide in them and use that as a cover. And that really strikes into the core of this biggest catch that you had and what's still unfolding about it. And so something that really struck me is how this system was broken was when we were talking earlier about how, this former police chief hasn't even had to attend an open court because of this COVID situation. His lawyer has been appearing for him via Zoom, and you have followed up so diligently by actually going to court just to view the Zoom yourself, which you can only do not at home. You have to go to court to actually see a Zoom of the court proceedings that are going on at that time. Is that not correct?
Correct, which should be public for the public.
Yeah, and
all
so
public should have access to it. I don't know.
So I want to caution people in the audience with what I'm talking about to take this thing to the next level. It's of the utmost importance for us to present this. It's key. We don't want to be aggressive. We don't want to be, so condescending or angry that people can't hear us. And I know this is something that you and I talked about. And it's particularly hard for some people when we get so passionate about these issues, Jay. But some of the other channels out there that do what you do kind of have a different spin, and they're a lot more aggressive than you are. And so talk to me about the psychology that you've incorporated into your catch and your tactics as far as how you'll make them call their mom. I've seen you do that. I've seen you have them call their girlfriend, stuff like that. Tell me why you think that's important in some of the instances and what that. Yeah.
All right. So basically, a lot of people always say it too. They're like, you're not hard enough on these guys. So basically, my thing is, I can go in there screaming loud. I can make them so scared that they'll leave there running. But what am I doing by doing that? I'm not getting them to admit nothing on camera. I'm not getting them to incriminate themselves more. I'm not getting more hard evidence on them. So there's just a lot of things that I'm just going there screaming at them. They drive off or run off, and I'm not getting nowhere. So my thing is to just go in there, try to stay as calm as I could possibly stay with them, make them feel comfortable. They're already not comfortable and are going to be scared out of their pants. So it's like I try to make them feel as most comfortable as possible. So I always come off as, hey, how you doing, Josh? Like I'm his friend. And and I start the conversation. I just try to make them feel comfortable. And it's more of like, yeah, I really want to shame them. And I do. I'll give them a little shaming. And the reason for having them call a family member for me is when they leave there, I want to just know that leaving my site right there is someone that is aware of it instead of just me and him. You think he's going to go back and say, hey, what just happened? No. So he's just going to think it's going to kick it under the rug. And no, I want someone that's close to him that knows what's going on and can try to speak to that person and get him some help, the help that he needs. Do I think these men help's going to help him? No. They go to jail, come out, reoffend. Go to jail, come out, reoffend. What could I can see the stuff like this slowing down. Yeah, because they're going to just be cautiouser. So, but Do I ever see this ending? Never. Sorry, it's something sad to say, but
Have you seen this kind of push to normalize pedophilia that we've seen from different acts of legislation in places like California, Canada, and so on? And if so, what do you think about that? What's really behind that agenda for this normalization of something that has long been held as one of the most heinous crimes that we've had?
it disturbs me honestly, and that's another thing. Like when I was growing up as a kid, like, you know, 18 years old, like if someone's older, like younger than 18, you don't, if you don't mess with someone. Like 16 years old is illegal. You can go and give consent. 16 years old. I think that is just disgusting to me. Like I don't get it. I don't even get it. And then you know what? Someone left me a comment. I'm sorry I cut you off. Someone left me a comment today, and it really did get to me. And they like some of the comments I get. They said, "Oh, you're happy that you're catching minors, but there's 2 and 3 year olds that are getting raped." I'm not a police officer, first of all, okay? And I would love to catch every single one of these scums I could possibly catch, okay? But I can only do with what resources I have, okay? And these are the type of people that I can catch, which means I'm literally stopping them from committing a crime, which is raping and taking a kid's innocence, okay? And I'm stopping them, and I'm stopping a kid from being hurt. So it's like I'm winning no matter what. So
Absolutely, and I appreciate you sticking up for yourself there. But I also like that I've heard other people aware of what's going on. Those type of perpetrators are exceedingly hard to catch, and anytime we get wind of somebody involved in this, it's up to us to do our due diligence and to expose this, and particularly if somebody's held in law enforcement. Because my whole take is, if we have somebody who, you know, wants to be a public servant, who wants to have a relationship with the public, they need to be held to a higher standard if they're involved in criminal activity, bottom line, period. That's just the way it should be. You know, there should be sentencing guidelines specifically for law enforcement if they're involved in illicit activity. You don't get a break because you know somebody at the DA's office or because you're buddies with all these other cops. That's totally the kind of the antithesis to true justice. And unfortunately, we've seen this going on for so long. And we're really at a really pivotal kind of precipice in our country's history right now, and this issue is central to it. When, you know, all this Epstein stuff comes out and we see the political figures involved in this, people like Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew, and why are you on these fight logs, and why is the media trying to cover this up? And we've really seen kind of the decimation of a lot of their work. Ellen's gone, Oprah's gone, all these people that we know were connected to Epstein, they're gone, they're done. And when we look at Hollywood, we know Hollywood has played this huge role in this. And regardless of what people think about the QAnon movement, these people are crazy or whatever, there is actually some truth to some of the things that were going on. Because let me tell you, it's mainstream news, even though they don't want to go and really put this out there too heavily. But Hollywood is basically non-existent right now. The theaters aren't even open. And so I know that the second biggest cinema chain in the world has shut down completely. And they're shutting down. It's over 1,000 different theaters worldwide, some in the UK, some here. This is a major impact on people. And it's not something that we're really considering right now. And this whole transition that we're going through is a major thing into our human development. So a lot of people are scared. A lot of people don't understand what's going on, Jay. And we talked briefly kind of off air about some of these other topics that are related to what you're doing, but how these pieces fit together is something that we're always trying to kind of refine and put into context for ourselves. And it's also something that is dynamic and changing. And so we need to be diligent of how we share our information, and to be able to get in front of the right people to present this information. And I'd like to hear from the audience. I hope that during the second hour after we take a break, we'll be able to hear from some people and interact with those people about what's really going on out there with them from their frames of mind. And are there people out there who are willing to get active and say, hey, I can call whoever this elected officials is office and let them know how I feel. So long, if I'm going to endorse that type of activity, I would appreciate if people did that as calmly, coolly, and as collectively collected as they can. Let's not make a mess of things, and let's be polite to people. But are there people out there who are willing to get involved? Because there's so many people that just watch your stuff to get actively involved with, hey, by the time that you're even done with the catch, basically, they already know who the guy is. They're doing this research for you. That's great. But what are the additional steps that we can take, and how can we all get on the same page? I'm trying to put all these things in the same pot together and kind of look at it together to create something that is a formula for all of us to use, because all of us have our different area of expertise when it comes to this. And if we can all learn how to work together, this is what real community action looks like. It's not just somebody going to talk to the DA's office. It's not just somebody in the field like yourself. It's coalescing these things and being able to have a real impact that's going to have a lasting effect for the future, that's more pronounced. And everything that you do, like you said, is a win, Jay. And so I'm not trying to discount that, but I'm trying to think of ways we can continue to move this into the future. And it's such an important thing to me. I really do want to hear from the audience. So I hope those guys are out there hearing that, and we can get a call in. I'm not sure what time it is out there. It looks like we can go to a break now if we want to. Daryl, what do you think? Daryl may not be with us right now. Daryl may be doing something behind the scenes. So, that's okay.
Oh, I'm right here, brother. I am right here. I was just captivated by the conversation. And we're ready for a break, gentlemen. So give me 12 seconds to find something. How about a little bit of upbeat for everybody around the town?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Daryl.
Y'all want a little something that you Jimmy Jam on? Hey, and by the way, I must state that this is probably the most educationally dynamic interview that I've heard on radio in years. Thank you, Sonny.
Thank you, Daryl. That means a lot coming from you. I hope the audience is getting something from this, because we're kind of in foreign territory. Yeah, we're kind of in foreign territory. And let me tell you something, Daryl has done a lot of interviews. And so we'll be back in just a minute after the break, guys. We want to hear from you guys out there in the audience.
We will survive. Yes,
what
right.
What recording was that? What year was that, Jay?
Oh, I don't know. That's Grateful Dead, man. I mean, I've noticed one thing, and I mean, I got to be honest about this. The music of the past is a reflection of the future.
Absolutely. Isn't that amazing how music can speak to the future in those ways of something to come? Is such a beautiful thing. And I want to give the audience the call-in number right now, Daryl, if I may.
Please do.
If you guys want to call in out there, it's 929-436-2866. We'd love to hear from you so we can have some interaction going on. And I want to get people's take that are listening on some of the things that we're talking about. Are you willing to take the next steps that are necessary to get into what real community involvement looks like in working with? Because remember, in a constitutional republic, even though it's arguable, hey, we may live in a post-constitutional America today in many respects, and we have this whole corporate takeover of our country, our values, and what this country is really supposed to be. What can we do to change these things is simply not sit there and let this stuff continue. These guys have run rampant because largely we've let them. I mean, about 99%, we've just kind of watched this and we're getting trampled on. And we may be pleasantly surprised when we take that step forward professionally. We look at these things objectively and we say, hey, Mr. elected official, Mrs. elected official, whoever you may be, this is a real community concern, right? Because these people are concerned about their reelection, and this is everything that they live for. If our voice is heard about these issues, they don't have a choice but to respond. That's the way that our system is designed, and there's never been a more important time to get active. And who are we to sit back and say, we know this stuff that's going on with children, and there's so much momentum behind this issue right now where, again, we see somebody like Jay. Bless this guy's heart, y'all, because he comes out here And he's just doing this on sheer passion, momentum, and drive from his heart to do this. He's not making a dime doing it, okay? And he's doing it simply to help these other people. That's the essence of future development of our civilization on this planet. That's how we're going to make it, right? And if we don't embrace that and take that to the higher level, man, what are we even doing? Why is our life even worth living if we're going to let our own children suffer, right? So this is an ancient idea, but there's so many things to distract us today. If we can go and look up and research, who a predator is, who this is, we can put that effort also into saying, hey, we need to hold our law enforcement officials and elected officials to a higher standard now, because we see that just one member of the public is able to go and do orders of magnitude beyond what really is a multi-million-dollar endeavor per county seat that is going on in each community around our country. This really equates to probably over certainly hundreds of billions of dollars that we're looking at here in our country alone, of misappropriated funds, how the stuff is going on. And I'm not here to talk about, I think we should defund the police, but we certainly need to be able to reallocate these funds in such a way that can strengthen and make our communities more healthy. And this is a major way in which we can be able to move forward in that direction. And when we get to the heart of these issues and we begin to hold these people accountable and we begin to get them out of our structure, which is going on right now, and this is this huge tug-of-war battle, and we're just going to say, you know what, we're not going to let you guys do this to the kids no more. It doesn't matter if you're left or you're right. We see through the divisiveness. We're not going to let you play us against one another. We're going to stand together. We're going to do this together no matter what it takes. Put aside our differences politically, whether we believe in aliens or not, or whether we have been involved in this or that in our past. If we have a common issue that we can all come together about, let's focus on that and be able to move forward with that. And I see that we have a caller here.
And I got
caller. Are you there?
Let's see if this is a good one. Caller, you're on with the crew.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Jay, what's up? It's Pirate.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Not much. Keep up the good work. Hello, can you hear me? Can you all hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Sound. Jay, when you said about what happened to the...
With who?
I'm echoing. Sorry, guys. When you... let me just move back.
What you want to do, sir, is you please turn down your radio. Put down the music in the background, like our show, because there's a slight delay there, and then we'll be able to hear you better.
Is that better?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That's it. Sorry about that. I was saying, Jay, when you were saying about what happened to the kid and your sister, you literally made me cry, bro.
Hey, man.
That's good. What are you doing?
Hey, I appreciate the love, guys. I really do. You guys don't understand. I literally, this situation, I cry at night myself thinking about some of this stuff. I really do, man. So that's why sometimes I do take a break. Like right now, I'm taking a few days off for myself because I needed. I literally had a breakdown this morning. So, we're just human.
You know my Instagram, bro. Anytime you need to talk about anything, you can always hit me up on Instagram, bro. Anytime.
Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate you supporting me.
That's cool, bro. I'll always support you. You're the best of them all.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. Shout out to the UK.
Caller, where are you calling from?
UK.
All right. Good deal. We've reached some people out there today. What do you see going on in the United Kingdom as far as these issues pertain, how it's involved with the law enforcement and the different political figures in your country? And do you see the public being able to get behind these issues in ways in which they haven't yet? Because to be real frank, the UK has outdone us. Germany has outdone the United States as well as far as it pertains to these issues with the public outcry. We've had people at Buckingham Palace We've even had David Icke out there with these massive awareness movements. And a lot of people will say, well, hey, this guy's in on it. He's controlled opposition. He may have some of his own ideas, but he underscores these same issues, and he's done this in a much larger platform. I really have to give him respect for that, regardless of what anybody may say about him, because I think that he's also doing this from his heart as well. I don't really believe that David Icke is controlled opposition. I believe him to be a good guy overall. And again, what do you see as far as how this transition is moving forward in your country? And, you know, what are some ways that we may be able to model that here in the United States from your perspective, caller?
Well, in the United States, you need to be able to do what we do in the UK, is detain them. We can literally hold them until the coppers come over here.
Yes.
We literally, by law, we're allowed to keep them there contained until the authorities show up to get them. That's what America needs to do. And make America great. Sorry, everyone, but Trump supporters is listening to this, but make America great again and get rid of him, for one. He's not doing that country any favours. Sorry for my cousin. What else did I say? There's a few people in the UK. I haven't actually watched any of their videos because I'm always watching J or other catchers. J mostly I watch these days, or FM. Always one of them two I always watch these days. But me, myself, I go on this website called chatiw.us. You can put UK as well, no matter what you put in the end. But on there, I get confronted by... I talk to predators on a daily and that. I've had one hitting me up saying he'd been with an 8-year-old, which that made me sick. I literally boycotted that site for 2 days because of that. So I went back on to it because I couldn't do it. At the minute, as you can see in my name, I got Pirate Hacker. Yeah, I like doing stuff like that, but I'm a good one. At the minute, I'm trying to get to this website called rapey.su, which has got 5,000 users, rapists and pedophiles. I told one of my friends about that site, he checked it out, and he sent me a link to that, back off that site, on a post. I read it, it made me feel so sick. Some woman was babysitting a 2-year-old, and she wanted to do things to him. And that's one of my biggest reasons I want to get this website shut down. That's why I'm trying to get into and expose it. That's
this
why
is an important point, caller. I've talked with innumerable different people in law enforcement at the federal and local and county levels about, you know, ethical hacking, if you will. And where are the resources of our public servants when it comes to these types of sites? Why do we see Facebook largely, you know, if not just having a nonchalant type of attitude towards these types of crimes and people in their groups advocating for pedophilia at a very young age of, you know, child rapists that are talking about raping kids that are, you know, toddlers, for Christ's sake. You know, why it's incomprehensible, right? We don't understand how this can go on. It doesn't compute. It doesn't make any sense. There is a sickness that we need to be able to understand. I don't know how people want to look at this. Is this a spiritual affliction? Is there something technological that is the stimulus and the influence here for us to have portions of our society that have come under this kind of spell and are engaging in this activity? Is it demonic? Is it what? All of these different possibilities. We need to understand, identify, and act upon these threats. And we need to be diligent about this. And so every person out there that's listening, and I know that for every caller out there listening, for every caller, there's probably at least 100 or 1,000 people listening. You are where the rubber meets the road with this, guys. There are ways to raise awareness about this, and we don't want to sound like a broken record. We don't want to preach to the choir. We need to engage new audiences. We need to bring this information to people that have no real scope of what's going on, because there are still people out there that can identify and understand these things. And some people, they just don't want to hear it. We're not able to reach them. We also don't want to waste our time on them. But I just want to thank you, caller, for getting involved in your own community and taking awareness about these issues. And I'm not aware of these sites that you're talking about. And it's just, it's sickening to hear about this.
Rapey.su is literally, if you go to Google and type it in, it'll come up. It's literally on the main part of Google. Which
What is it? Spell it for me.
Can you see the chat?
Actually, no, I'm not able to see the chat right now.
Pirate Hacker, just DM me later and I'll get it to him.
Cool.
Alright. I'll DM it to Jay later. At the moment with that website, rapey.su, I've managed to get into the logmin admin page and I've got the admin's username. I just need to get that password so I can expose them and shut that site down.
See, this is, now you're talking. And so I don't want to advocate for any type of illegal activity, and I'm not doing that. But if there's an illegal site out there and a law enforcement official wants to come and try to protect these people, guess what? We're looking for you. Come and try to step to protecting these pedophiles, and we're going to put you in prison for that. And you're not going to get away with this anymore. And so it's nice to be able to see a push for that. And I really do believe that there are certain elements within the current administration that are working on this issue very diligently. And it's important for us to recognize that. And I don't want to make this about a Republican or a Democrat thing, because we see this going on in both parties without question. However, there's some things that are going on democratically right now with their party that just don't make sense. I mean, I don't consider myself to be a Republican or a Democrat, but it's just really important for us to illuminate both sides of this and work together bipartisanly to be that. And I see that we have a caller there. I see that we have Candy on the line. Let's get Candy in here and get her take on this and see what she has to say. Candy, are you there with us? And thank you, caller, for calling in. Keep up your good work, okay, buddy?
That's why. This is why I always watch Jay and always support them, and I always will.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people working on this issue, so we appreciate that, caller. Thank you so much.
All right. I'll talk to you later now, Jay.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Peace out, all. Have a nice day, everyone. Sorry, I had a cigarette in my gob, man. Ta-ra, all. Bye.
UK.
Yeah, wow, that guy had a thick accent, didn't he? It was interesting to try to speak with him. I appreciate the work that he's doing. That's neat that he had made it as far as he had into that website to see that. I mean, people, what people do is their own business, but he's talking about a site that promotes child rape. I mean, what is the ethical thing to do here? And so,
there's a lot of them.
Oh, I know. Isn't that terrible? And so this is my partner here, Jay. I'm sure she probably has a lot to say to you. Candy, can you hear me?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. What you got?
Okay. First of all, thank you for taking my call. Second of all, I am Candy Vanderwalker, and Sonny Irvin has been my colleague and dear friend for the past 10 years. We are also out here dragging darkness into light every single day of our lives. So, Jay, I just wanted to say my hat is off to you. I don't think people are really comprehending the work that you're doing because, first of all, most people do not even want to think about or consider what is happening to these children, because when you really tear down that wall and you really actually think about what is happening to these children and putting yourself in the place of these children, the pain becomes unbearable. You can't breathe. So in this day and age, it is very far and few between. You will not find someone who has been affected or afflicted with this. We are also disregarding the most important part of this, which is the spiritual aspect of this illness. People do not understand that these entities, if you will, these spiritual dark entities literally attach to human beings and steer their behavior. They feed off of adrenochrome. I mean, this is stuff that's coming to light in the general public. So we have a spiritual sickness that has affected humanity to a degree that it's your next door neighbor. It's the priest in your church. It's your uncle. It's your father. So these are the things we're talking about, that this is a spiritual sickness. I don't think people comprehend that. I don't think they want to think about it. They don't think about it. They don't take it into consideration. I am not condoning this in any way. But I am telling you that I've personally met people who have been afflicted by these dark attachments, who have literally steered their behavior. They could not control themselves. They could not regain control of themselves. They were forced to do things that they themselves, as a human, would never do. Because let's face it, humans don't do these things. Demons do these things. So that's a big part of what's happening in the world. My hat is off to you, Jay. The work that you are doing, dragging this darkness into light, shaming these people, calling their families, making sure that someone else knows what is happening. I commend you. I am honored to even speak with you and be here with you. And I am going to share your work and spread the word to every single person on the face of this planet that will once again listen to my mouth screaming from the rooftops. So thank you so much. Sonny, fantastic work.
Thank you.
I can't say enough.
Well, thank you so much. I love all you guys. I really do. I love all the supporters. I try to communicate with everybody as much as possible. I try to let everybody, I try to take everybody with me with every step of my way. When I go to the police station to turn people in, I go live, show everybody. I want everyone to be a part of this too, man, because we are all in this together.
Amen.
That's absolutely right. And so I'm going to get working on this kind of new formula of how we can present these things to law enforcement, to elected officials, and get that ball really rolling, not just with you going live, not just with these other guys, but with the community consensus that we all reach together that says that there's a way that we can really have an effectual relationship in our community revolving around these issues that's going to have a real lasting impact in our communities. And so each one of these that we can nail down. Jay, I know that you have made a pretty big impact in your own personal community where you live. And I wonder if you want to share maybe one of the most moving testimonies of somebody that you caught and what they had to say, and maybe the impact that you were so blessed to be able to share with them in their life, and how that makes you feel and so on. I mean, is there one situation that really sticks out that you've encountered with somebody that you've caught that maybe you felt like these people aren't going to do this again? You really struck a chord with them to where you feel like it's making a real difference in that individual, that one person.
Yeah, there's been not even a handful. So, I mean, there's two. I can name two. One was a recent one, which was a college student. And there was another one, which his name was Dave. He was actually married. Well, we'll talk about Dave since that was like happened in the beginning when I first started catching. His name was Dave. We talked for a long time. I think it was maybe even like, it was a while, maybe like a month. And he was talking to another one of my cousin's decoys too. And we met up with him. We did the exposure, and I could just, by the way I was talking with him and his expressions and how he responded, I just knew that he was very remorseful for what he did. He called his wife. Yeah, he told his wife what he did. His wife agreed to have his back and support him, which is huge, honestly. And I commend that lady, because I don't think I would have got rid of him. But she stood by his side. He actually went and got help. He did try to kill himself. So
After
I did
the
take
catch?
down. Yeah, a little bit. It was a little bit while after the catch. So I did take the video down eventually. And yeah, he's one of the few that I actually do believe that he will never ever do this again. And yeah, I actually went home and felt bad, and I made sure, like, that guy used to call me every single day and call me, and I used to tell him, no, I don't care. You call me anytime. I don't care if it's 12-1. If you think you're going to do something to hurt yourself, call me. I don't want no one to hurt themselves. I'm human, man. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people wish the worst on these type of people, but There's some of them that I do wish that upon, but there is some that I believe they just honestly made that one rational bad decision. And
yeah,
luckily, I saved them.
You've got so much heart, dude. I mean, to think that you put so much time, you're still grounded enough to show your emotion. It's a fucking amazing what you're doing, and to think that this is the guy. This is the one guy who goes and outdoes an entire fusion center, municipal agency, sheriff's department, all rolled into one times 10 by himself with nothing but a cell phone and a YouTube channel and some social media platforms. Okay. I have talked personally with FBI and Secret Service, who now works for the district attorney's office, a guy named Chris Meehan out in Collin County. Dude, they don't even come close to what you're doing. And these guys will go out and give seminars and give lectures about how to catch online predators. These are the most respected people in their fields. And I can show you their work. I've reviewed it all personally after having spoke with them. And to think that just you outdo them, I mean, this is unbelievable that this is even a thing to be done. And anybody needs to understand that. But again, man, most importantly, the people in the positions of the power need to understand this. And so I'm going to be real focused on, Jay, watching your work, how this progresses for you, and how those relationships that you're cultivating now in the law enforcement and the judicial communities are beginning to fruit or not. And ultimately what we can do. I see that other caller there. Caller, you're going to want to mute yourself and please turn down your radio. And you're with us on Fully Operational. How you doing? Let's have 325 area code pop in there.
Hello?
Hello. Hi.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I'd want to let you know what's your
hello.
opinion on
Hi.
the N-word.
Sounds like we've got two callers there. Just
Hey, I'd want to let you know what's your opinion on the N-word.
Oh, this is something that came up, I think, the other day during one of Jay's videos. He mentioned this to me, and I think that it was taken out of context in this issue. I don't think that it was a racial slur. I think that it was more of a euphemism or a colloquialism, kind of like a pronoun when people use that word, like man, dude, fool, homie, G, cuz. It's just one of those.
Oh, I think it's an amazing word. I think it should be used in the most derogatory way to every black person on the planet.
Please
I think it's an amazing word. I think it should be used in the most derogatory way to every black person on the planet.
Okay. You're entitled
I'm not
to
a troll. What are you talking about?
Why do you think I'm a troll?
God, people, calm down.
That was fascinating.
Calm down, or I just start muting you people. Damn. I mean, seriously, one at a time. Do it easy. How about this? 325 come first, then how the next one comes second.
What do you mean you're gonna mute?
Dude, how are you gonna mute me? I don't understand.
Just like
Yeah,
that.
let's cut that guy off of there.
Dude, how are you
He admitted he was a troll.
Dude, you can't mute me. Why are you trying to?
He's actually on both lines.
Dude, you
and so
can't
let's
mute
cut
me.
him
I'm
out of there.
trying
And it's
to.
funny. It's funny that somebody would make light of that issue.
I think
and
trolls are
give us
just
his
idiots.
phone number when he did it, because I can guarantee you we can find out exactly who you are by doing that.
Oh,
And
don't
so
worry.
thank you for-
We're recording, brother. So guess what?
Yeah,
I get
right.
to see. I get to put the number out
You know,
later on.
My
This
best
is the
friend is
day and
fire
age that we
hacker.
live in. Yeah, and this is the
Oh,
thing.
we can work together,
this
brother.
This may be something that's funny for somebody, but to make light of the issue of what we're talking about, and to think about this guy was probably a straight up pedophile. He's probably somebody that advocates for pedophilia, and he's probably a child rapist, and that's why he called into the show tonight. And he's probably somebody that follows your work, and this is something that you need to be cautious of. We all need to be cautious of, because some of these people are so entrenched and ingrained in their ways of thinking. And, God forbid we get somebody in a county seat like this. God forbid we get somebody in a senator's chair like this, or the congressman, or, the mayor, or what have you, the cop that's, selling dope up the street to everybody and stringing them out, whatever it is. I've straight up dealt with cops who will sell drugs in their uniform out of their cop car, dude. That it resulted in the deaths of two different people as he's bringing in fentanyl from China. Okay. So we have all of these different kinds of problems, and these people think it's a joke. We will find you. Okay. If you're involved in this kind of stuff, you're trying to cover up for this stuff, no matter where you are, divine retribution, if nothing less, is coming to get you for this. And so it may not be our job, it may not be our role to play that, you know, this is something that we're going to personally do to you, but something is coming for you, and you better check yourself before you wreck yourself when it comes to these things. And it's disheartening to think that that's a real thing that we contend with in this world today. But we need to realize that, you know what, it is, and we need to take a stand and pick a side and stand in and firmly stand in it. And so we've got another caller here. I hope this is a good call. I do like to interact with the audience, and I'm just going to go ahead and take a guess that was probably somebody who does aggressively try to advocate for pedophilia, who's going to call in on a show like this and act like that last caller did. So we've
caller,
got 443 area code here. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing excellent, sir. How are you?
Great. Thank you.
Talk
hey,
to
Jay,
us.
Man, I just want to give you a lot of respect for what you're doing.
Hey, well, I appreciate it, man. I do. Trust me, I appreciate every single one of you guys in your own ways, man. I love all my supporters. And like I said, we just going to keep pushing forward, man. We're going to be unstoppable.
I know, man. And I want to let you know, if you're ever in the DMV, you know, I've seen Alex and the other guys come here. I'll do anything I can to support you. My name's Rich, by the way. I have my own channel as well. Has nothing to do with that. But if you ever come to D.C., Maryland, Virginia, you know, I would love to, you know, make sure you're taken care of and help with the cost of doing what you're doing, because you're doing such a great thing.
Hey, well, I know you guys always have my backs, and that's one thing I say. I don't get paid off this, but I do have a lot of supporters and donators that do donate, and without them, a lot of this wouldn't happen. So thank you guys. You guys make it possible for me to travel. I literally had to drive yesterday. I drove an hour and a half there and back to get catches. So
I've noticed that. I've noticed you've been putting in a lot of time, a lot of grind, and you know, I'm glad that you're. You know, I've noticed sometimes, like you said, you need some time away. You know, this isn't something easy for anyone to deal with, and what you're doing is just such an amazing thing. And you guys are actually having a great conversation tonight and letting people know and enlighten them. And there's so much more than people know that goes on just when you turn a camera on. There's stuff that goes on behind the scenes. There's stuff that goes on every day. So just you bringing it to the light, man, much appreciated, brother. That's all I want to tell you, my man.
Hey, I appreciate the
real
love.
quick,
and listen,
caller. Oh, go ahead, Jay. Just call her before you leave. I've got a question for you.
Yeah, and I'll do too, because I want to know about where you are.
Hey, well, don't worry. I'm gonna be in DC. Don't worry. DC, Washington is. I think I'm going to head out that way real soon. They're in Hollywood.
That's right. That's right.
Soon.
Well, like I said, I'll make sure if you come out this way, things are covered for you. I just like what you're doing, and I want to be a supporter for that, and I want you to keep grinding and moving forward, because what you're doing is absolutely amazing, brother.
Thank you, man. God bless.
Hey, Sonny.
And caller, let me ask you this, caller. Do you see some type of a formation of people becoming more organized about the issues that we've been talking about as far as addressing our elected officials about this problem? Why is it that somebody like Jay, who you're so adamant to support, is able to outdo our elected officials and our law enforcement? And what can we do to address that issue? And how are we going to get organized about that from your perspective?
You know, I mean, that's a question with many different facets, but at the same time, he's doing something that, you know, I mean, you know, if you've noticed lately, there's people that go out and they do their First Amendment audits, or they do certain things. You know, I've been pulled over by police or racially profiled. There are just things that happen when you're able to actually do something yourself. And also, you know, Jay has to go through things with the law accordingly. He's got to deal with, you know, when he submits all the investigative purposes or things that he's put into behind that camera, you know, he has to go through a process to even get some of these guys charged with anything. Depending on where he goes or travels, you know, the laws are very different, which I do not like. You know, it just really depends on where you're at. I've noticed that people in different states have different advantages. So what he's doing, no matter where he goes, it's going to go very far, because he does the same thing every time, and he does it to the perfectional way that I've ever seen. And he's very different. I've watched a lot of different channels, the way he approaches things is absolutely amazing. He has his own style.
I agree.
And that's what's going to take him further. And that's also what's going to change what he's doing. There's many channels or there's many people trying to do things, but there's a way that he does it, and he has a passion for it, and he's been through stuff himself. So therefore, he brings something else to the table that I like that nobody else really can do. And, when you look at government officials or police or different states, jurisdictions, this man is doing something not a lot of people can do.
Now, I got a question for the caller. I got a question for the caller myself. Now, where in the DMV are you, man? I'm over here in Georgetown.
You're in Georgetown?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm actually in Mount Airy, Maryland.
Oh, I know where that is. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you down. You down. Hey, look after the boy. Look after the networks and everything.
I have a sneaker channel, so I'm actually at Nike a lot. I go to George's Townhouse. They got the best steak and cheese in town. Georgetown's a great place to go. It's just too busy for me. DC gets very hectic.
Yeah, it does. Man, it's good to hear somebody from the area calling in. And I'm going to tell my man, you need to come to D.C. and crack this mold down here, man, because there's a lot of undercover stuff in D.C. ranging from politics to parlor tricks.
Hey,
Correct.
I know. I'm down. I'm
said
down.
that
I already
perfectly.
said it. I said it. I'm going to see my mom. I think in like a week or two, I'm going to go visit my mom for like 2 weeks. And then after that, I think I'm going to head out towards Washington.
All right.
Like, give me like a month.
All right. I did. I'll tell Sonny to give you my number, man. We can hook it up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sounds great, guys. I'm going to continue watching what you guys are doing. If someone else is calling in, I want to get somebody else to be heard. But thank you guys for picking up and talking, and just keep doing your thing. You guys are all doing a great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Next caller, area code 206. You are live.
Seattle. We've got a Seattle caller.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
You hear me? Hey, how you guys doing? I'm from Seattle. I like what you guys are doing. I just got a couple topics that I want you guys to cover. So I've been looking at your channel a little bit recently. So you guys are like all conspiracy theories and all that. Like, are you like Q people? Are you like QAnon people? Or no?
I wouldn't put us in any of those kind of confines whatsoever. But what's your real question, caller?
Okay, my real question is, why don't you expose the Jews that are controlling the media, the banks? Why don't you expose those guys? Because they are the real pedophiles here.
Wow.
Wow. Okay. That must have been Black Lives Matter, everybody. Watch out. Okay, next.
Yeah, I mean, we do have some hate on the network from, we just did have a sheriff on in the Washington area who wanted to focus on these kind of provocateur groups who will do things like just to instigate a situation. And let me tell you, little son of a bitch, is something out there. If you're getting funded by somebody like George Soros, we will see that son of a bitch at the end of a rope swinging or in the grave, and we will dance on that motherfucker. And so the bottom line is, we're not going to let these things tear apart our country and take away from the real core issues that we're discussing here tonight. Okay, so we know that this kind of funding's going on. We know that these things are going on, and it's really kind of funny that we see people like in Antifa and these, forgive me if you're a good person in Antifa, or if your heart is good and you're in BLM and you really misunderstand what you're a part of. Because if you are one of those people, you do misunderstand what you're a part of, and you're basically being puppeteered into being in one of these types of situations where you're going to instigate situations to further the divisiveness in our country, which is exactly the opposite of what we're trying to talk about here today. And so I appreciate to be able to get the point across due to these types of callers. I mean, of course, in a perfect world, we wouldn't have to deal with these situations, but we wouldn't even be having this show if this was a perfect world. And so these things are expected, and it's all about how we choose to deal with them. And so it's kind of comical at this point that somebody wants to make a racial issue, or somebody wants to make any type of issue which again will further divide us, particularly when we're talking about something that affects all of us, like this issue with child sex crimes is really what we're talking about here today, and how it affects the public and all of these different sets of levels really that are in place to kind of cover up for this stuff. And so I think that it's been a fruitful show in the sense that we can expose Jay to some new people and vice versa. And I think it's good for you, Jay, to be able and to come out and talk about these things. I'm glad that you're taking a step back because really, man, I've seen you. I can just feel the energy. I can hear it behind your voice, see it behind your eyes of how hard you've really put into this for yourself. And so as my partner Candy would say, you need to refill your cup. You need to be able to take care of yourself. That's how you're going to be able to effectively help other people. And that goes for all of us. And all of us, the cool thing about this network and the people that are having this conversation tonight is that we're all here doing this out of our heart. We're all here doing this to try to help other people. And it's kind of a selfless thing for us. We're not getting rich off this. We're not famous for this. But the people that we do reach are people that will be able to then spread that, let it take root with other people, and that's how these things grow. And anybody who can do this in any form, anywhere, I commend you for doing it. And so thank you guys for being there, for doing that. And Jay, what do you think about, we're coming to a close of the show here. We've got about 4 or 5 minutes left, really. I want you to get your last 2 cents in and really say anything else you need to say. And I want you to know before I get you in there, I'm going to be following your work. I'd love to have you back on, even if it's, I'd like to be able to do kind of a checkup with you maybe every couple of months to kind of see where things stand. Maybe you can pop in for 20, 30 minutes and say, well, hey, here's where we were, here's where things are, here's where we're still going. And I want to get that community momentum behind these things by trying to focus on some of the issues that we've talked about tonight. So why don't you jump in there for us, let us know how you're feeling, and get your last little 2 cents in there before we let you go. And thanks so much for being on. You've been a great guest, and of course I appreciate your work, and that's why I chose to have you on tonight. So what do you got for us, Jay?
All right, so basically, like I said, so me personally, like I said, I'm gonna be taking a couple of days off. I got a lot of stuff I gotta get caught up on. I'm always constantly working, and like it's been getting to the point that my girl's always like, you don't even eat. You haven't even ate all day. Oh, it's been 2 days and you still haven't ate now. Like I literally go without eating. I'm just always, my phone's working this. I got to do this. I got to get this uploaded. Got to go message this person. So I'm definitely going to take a couple of days off just to get myself back in order. I'm so happy and proud of myself. Honestly, I am. I've came a long ways in just the past year and a half. And I'm very, very proud of myself. I really am. I didn't think I was going to grow this fast. Like I said, it was something I just, I didn't think it was going to grow. I just didn't think I don't know. I just didn't think it was going to grow this big, and it did, like overnight. And I'm just taking everything step by step, day by day. And I'm just glad that I'm meeting a lot of wonderful new people along this way. I've met so many good people, a lot of new people, and I literally consider them family. They have my back, and I just want to say I thank all my supporters, man. Without them, I wouldn't be able to share half these guys' pictures, man. You guys make a lot of things possible. I love you guys. I say it all the time, even for the ones that can't donate or do this, or that doesn't matter to me. As long as you guys, I tell them it's free to like the stream, share it. It doesn't cost anything to share. That's all I ask. And let's just keep spreading this awareness. And I'm not gonna stop this fight. I'm in this fight for the long run. And yeah, I don't know.
Awesome, Jay. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Trying to get better on camera too. I'm trying.
No, you did a great job, and I think that this is something that you're going to need to get used to, because we work with a lot of different people. I know I mentioned this to you earlier. I think there's going to be a lot of people taking spark of to you, because a lot of people don't know what you're doing yet. You're still kind of under the radar, and that's to your benefit in a lot of ways. And I've got probably some things I'll talk to you about off air when it comes to this, but it's great to be able to start kind of a relationship and friendship with you as I've seen your work. I want to look forward to the future of how this is going to develop, and again, check in on this with you. And I really just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, bro, because this is an issue close to my heart, and it's affected a lot of people that I know in a lot of different ways. And to get out here and do what we're doing with this is something that you have to be made for to do. And so you're a very special individual when it comes to this. A lot of people should look to you for that. And the higher aspects of this and where it's going, if we choose to work together in the communities that we're all in, we need to identify the formula of how to address these public officials, have the outcry, and address them. Because when we see this with other political issues, sometimes they'll actually do something about it. There should be 10 times more outpouring when we're talking about children. And there's, again, so much momentum behind this today. This is the right time to get this done. And so the elections are coming up. It's going to be a very divisive thing. And we're not going to lose this fight. The bad guys are not going to win this thing. It's just, it doesn't happen. So things may get a little bit more uncomfortable for us, but this is the birthing of something new, and when it's important for us to keep hope. And so kind of keep that in mind out there, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be back next week. I've got another great guest coming up for you. I'm going to keep that a secret until later on in the week, and looking forward to that show as well. And Jay, thanks so much for being on. You've been a fabulous guest. And are you going to restream this on your channel, or?
Yeah. What I'm gonna do is I'm probably just gonna go live. I'm probably gonna wait till tomorrow because YouTube, you go live twice and they don't give people notifications. Yeah, YouTube's just weird like that. So
okay.
Basically, I'll probably do it tomorrow. Yeah, I'm gonna put it up on my channel tomorrow.
Cool. We'll get you that file tonight, and we appreciate you being able to work with us on that. And I'd like to be able to get us out there to your audience and vice versa. And we're going to be able to bring some good things into this situation. So look out for other people wanting to get a hold of you and say, hey, Jay, you want to come on the show, and so on and so forth. I hope this is really the beginning of something to kind of put you in to some of that more exposure that you're really looking for, buddy.
And whenever you guys want me, I love to talk. I don't care to talk. And the more I'm on, the better I'll get on camera.
Perfect. You know? Right on. Okay, buddy, you got it.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you guys so much.
All right,
bye.
Man. Bye-bye.